My wife Sarah and I had always dreamed of owning a home. We had been saving for years, and when we finally had enough, we started looking for the perfect place. We wanted something with character, a place that felt like it had a story. So when we stumbled upon a beautiful Victorian house on Willow Lane, we thought it was our lucky day. The price was surprisingly affordable, almost too good to be true, and the house had all the charm we wanted: intricate woodwork, stained glass windows, and a large garden. We couldn't believe our luck. The realtor seemed eager to sell, which we chalked up to the sluggish housing market. He glossed over the house's history, mentioning only that it had been vacant for a few years. We didn't think much of it. We were too excited about finally owning our dream home. We signed the papers and moved in the following week. Our excitement, however, was short-lived. The first night, as we settled into our new home, we heard faint whispers. At first, we thought it was just the creaking of the old house. Victorian houses are known for their noises, after all. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, and seemed to come from all around us. It was unsettling, but we tried to ignore it, thinking it was just our imagination playing tricks on us in the new and unfamiliar space. As the days went by, the whispers continued, and other strange things started happening. I would wake up at night to find Sarah standing by the window, staring into the garden. When I asked her what she was doing, she would just shake her head and go back to bed, unable to explain her actions. It was as if she was in a trance. During the day, I noticed cold spots in certain parts of the house, even though it was the middle of summer. Sarah dismissed them, saying it was probably just poor insulation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, while unpacking in the attic, I found an old, dusty photo album. It was tucked away in a corner, hidden under a pile of old newspapers. Curious, I opened it and began to flip through the pages. At first, the photos were normal. Pictures of families celebrating holidays, children playing in the garden, and happy gatherings. But as I reached the last few pages, the images became disturbing. People with hollow eyes, expressions of terror, and what seemed to be shadowy figures lurking in the background. I showed the album to Sarah, who looked just as disturbed as I was. We decided to do some research on the house's history. We went to the local library and searched through old newspapers. What we found was chilling. The house had a dark past, filled with stories of mysterious deaths and disappearances. Previous owners had reported strange occurrences, and some had even left the house suddenly, abandoning all their belongings. After learning about the house's history, the strange events escalated. Doors would slam shut on their own, furniture would move, and we'd find objects in places we hadn't left them. The whispers grew louder, sometimes sounding like they were right next to us. We could no longer deny that something was seriously wrong. One night, we heard a loud crash from the basement. It sounded like glass shattering. With my heart pounding, I grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. What I found chilled me to the bone. A large mirror in the basement had been shattered, and the words "Get out" were scrawled on the wall in what looked like blood. I felt a cold breeze pass through me, and I knew we had to leave. The final straw came when Sarah woke up screaming, covered in scratches and bruises. She couldn't explain what had happened, but we knew we couldn't stay any longer. The house was not safe, and it felt like it was actively trying to harm us. We packed our bags in a hurry, grabbing only the essentials. As we were leaving, I felt a presence behind me, watching us, almost as if it were pleased to see us go. We didn't look back. We drove away and never returned. The house on Willow Lane remains abandoned to this day, a reminder of the horrors we escaped. The experience left us shaken. We moved to a small apartment in the city and tried to put the ordeal behind us. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear those whispers, and I wonder if we ever truly escaped the darkness that lurked in that house.
Before we get into the next story, if you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to a channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share the stories with your friends and family. Thanks.
My husband, Jake, and I had always wanted a secluded getaway. We both had demanding jobs, and craved a place where we could escape the hustle and bustle of city life. So, when we found a quaint cabin deep in the woods, we jumped at the chance to buy it. The cabin was charming, with its rustic log exterior, a stone fireplace, and a porch that offered a stunning view of the surrounding forest. It was perfect. The realtor mentioned the cabin had a history, but we dismissed it as local folklore. After all, every old cabin has its stories, right? We were too excited about the prospect of our private retreat to worry about ghost stories. We signed the papers and moved in within a week. From the first night, we knew something was wrong. We heard scratching noises coming from the walls and ceiling. Jake tried to assure me it was just animals, maybe squirrels or raccoons, but the sounds were too deliberate, too menacing. They seemed to follow us from room to room, growing louder each night. It was as if something was trying to get our attention. During the day, the cabin was peaceful and serene, but as soon as the sun went down, the atmosphere changed. The noises became more frequent, and I started to feel a constant sense of unease. I could never shake the feeling that we were not alone. One evening, while Jake was out getting supplies, I decided to take a bath to relax. The warm water and the soothing lavender scent helped calm my nerves. As I soaked in the tub, I let my mind wander, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. Screamed and jumped out, but there was no one there. My heart was pounding and my hands were shaking. As I tried to calm down, I noticed the bathroom mirror was fogged up with the words, "Leave now," written on it. My blood ran cold, grabbed a towel, wrapped it around myself, and ran out of the bathroom. When Jake returned, I told him what had happened. He didn't believe me at first, but when he saw the words for himself the next day, he finally agreed something was terribly wrong. We started to notice other strange occurrences. Objects would move on their own, cold spots would appear throughout the cabin, and we constantly felt like we were being watched. The once charming cabin now felt like a prison, and we were its captives. One night, we heard a low growling noise coming from the living room. It was a sound unlike anything I had ever heard before, deep, menacing, and filled with malice. We cautiously approached the living room, our hearts pounding in our chests. As we entered, we saw a dark, shadowy figure standing in the middle of the room. Its eyes glowed red, and it let out a bone-chilling scream. I felt paralyzed with fear, but Jake grabbed my hand and pulled me towards the door. We ran out of the cabin, our footsteps echoing in the silent night. We jumped into our car and sped away, leaving everything behind. As we drove away, I looked back and saw the shadowy figure standing on the porch, watching us with those terrifying red eyes. We never returned to the cabin, and it remains a dark, haunted memory. We later learned that the cabin was built on land that was once a burial ground, and the spirits of the disturbed graves were believed to haunt the property. The locals had always known about the cabin's dark history, but we had been too eager and too naive to listen. We sold the cabin as soon as we could, but the experience left a lasting mark on us. For months, I had nightmares about the shadowy figure and the cold hand on my shoulder. Jake and I grew closer as we helped each other heal from the trauma, but the fear lingered. We moved to a new home in the city and tried to put the ordeal behind us, but sometimes late at night I can still hear that growling noise in my dreams. Never spoke of the cabin again, and we vowed never to buy an old, secluded property without thoroughly researching its history first. The experience taught us a valuable lesson. Some places are haunted by more than just old memories. They are haunted by restless spirits, and sometimes those spirits do not want to be disturbed.